Now we use Teams for all of our internal meetings. Actually, as a team, we're genuinely excited about this further integration, and it's been really great fun working with Microsoft on this, and we think it's going to really change the way people run their sessions. So I've got it on good authority that that this is going to be available for public access in the next couple of days. We're just waiting on Microsoft to publish it after their approval process. So we're in their hands at the moment, but we're hoping to see it in the next couple of days, or maybe even sooner if we're lucky. Now, really, to get things going, Joe and I would really like to get an idea how much you guys use Teams. I've just told you that we use it all the time, but I want to hear about how much you guys use it. So, do you never use Teams? I'd be surprised if you're on this webinar, but perhaps you're getting ready to use it a little bit. Do you use it every now and again, once or twice a day, or is it an all day, every day, a bit like myself and Joe? So we'll give that a couple of seconds, Joe. But once you've seen the vote settle down, if you want to close that, and then we shall see the results. Wow, look at that. 70% of you use it all day, every day. Not really a huge surprise from the conversation that we've been having with our customers and users to know that is a massively high percentage. I think if we were to look at this a year ago, it might have been a very, very different picture.
Yeah, I'd have definitely responded once or twice a day if you'd asked me a year ago. But now, yeah, it's pretty much all day, every day.
Excellent. And we can clearly see we've got a quarter of people that are probably going to be using it far more often over the next few months. Okay, so a little look at our agenda for the day. We always tend to go with a nice simple agenda. We've got three main sections for this webinar. First of all, Joe's going to be taking us through a quick jargon buster that's related to Microsoft Teams. And just in case some of the subtleties of Teams lingo is going to be unfamiliar to any of you. We're then going to have a look at just how the VBox integration looks and works in Teams, and actually we're going to try something a bit different and look at it in a real environment. So we're going to be, risking using multiple platforms here as Joe and I jump in and join a Teams meeting at the same time. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. It's then going to be followed by a few use cases that will hopefully spark some ideas for all of you and to give you a few practical tips on how you can use VBox within Teams and how it will benefit your sessions. And then, of course, as always, we're going to try and save a good amount of time for some Q&A to take your questions at the end. So that's, again, another prompt for me to encourage you to join the VBox session. Again, at vevox.app, the session ID is 122-295-006, and send in all your questions to us. And please make sure that you like any of the ones sent by other people that you'd like to see answered, because we will be taking the most popular first. Okay, then without further ado, I think it's time to kick off with Joe's Jargon Buster.
Cool, thank you, Dermot. Yeah, so what I thought I would do just before we kind of get started is just go over a few of the kind of the terms and the the sort of the language that is sort of used to describe various sort of functionality and features within Microsoft, and we'll be using these throughout today's presentation. So the first one I wanted to talk about was this was Teams. And so this is where you've got a group of people working together, and is what you see down in the left-hand side panel within within Teams, and it's that that group of people belonging to a team, and people will obviously sit and sort of belong within multiple teams within that organization. Made up within those teams are channels. And these can either be private or public channels, and they're usually built around a specific topic, a specific class or a group of people that are sort of working on a particular subject. So within those channels is where you might hold your meetings. It might be where you have chats. It might be where you store files and other apps that you're sort of collaborating on. Next one is chats, and this is probably the thing that I find myself using, sort of most of the time, during the day. And this is where this is the kind of the messaging sort of functionality within Teams, as well as other things. So it's the ability to sort of message individuals or group of people, to be able to have calls, to screen share, and as I say, that could be between individuals and colleagues, such as myself and Dermot, or as a sort of a larger sort of group within the organisation. Just a couple more before we get started. So, and this is the most, probably the most sort of pertinent to today's session, is the idea of the meeting within Teams. So this can be video, audio, sort of screen sharing, experienced within Teams, and these can be scheduled within the sort of the calendar environment, or they can be sort of launched on the fly, and they don't have to only include people within your organization. So they can be meetings that you send out to sort of external parties, customers, etc. And then finally, we've got tabs or apps. So these are the tools that sit within, that can be sort of bolted on into sort of channels and chats. And now with sort of the latest update now within meetings as well. So the ability to start using, some of those, such as VBox, within that Teams meeting environment. So, as David said, we now want to sort of show you guys what the kind of the VBox app looks like when it's used within a Teams sort of meeting. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to join a Teams meeting that is going on, and Dermot is already in with some of my colleagues. So, I'm going to come to this session here. And I'm going to go to join, and I'm going to join that.
So as Joe's saying here, really instead of this standard product demo, we thought it would be a bit of fun to try something that's a bit different by really attempting to recreate this real environment, so you can see what's going on. Now, as we've said, we're having some fun with our internet, so if it starts to slow down, please let us know. But the idea here is that you're getting to watch over Joe's shoulder as he participates in my VBox Christmas party planning meeting. So remember, though, that you're not actually joining and participating in this meeting. You're just observers. So your version of VBox isn't going to react to the exercises that we're going through. Now, hopefully you can see that my attendees have already joined the session, and that Joe will hopefully be able to show you the VBox sidebar there absolutely as well. So what we're going to do is, just to get my participants in the mood, I'm going to kick off with a word cloud, just as we did at the start of our actual webinar, just to see how they all feel about Christmas. So please do send in a few words here as I try and open actually the correct question. User error there. So how does Christmas make you feel? So hopefully people will get a few words in here as we go, and we can see that building nicely. So I've got happy in here, festive, jolly, tired, great, sleepy. So you can see as happened earlier, we've got our word cloud building, and some great to see some positive messages coming through, and hopefully that will help us build a really positive and fun Christmas party. Now, moving on to our next question, we've checked all the annual leave records, and we've come up with a list of the most appropriate and available dates for our party. And so what I want the team to do here is actually choose their 2 preferred dates for our Christmas party. So our most open week across the whole business is Monday the 7th through to Friday the 11th of December. And I want everybody to select their 2 preferred dates and click the send button. And we'll get those results in. I can see I've got them all. So I'm going to close that poll and we'll see if we're able to choose a clear winner. Yes, absolutely. I can see now that Thursday, the 10th of December, is the date that we're going to go for. It's certainly the date that that most people can make. So excellent stuff there. Thank you, everybody, for that one. And now on to probably the most important question is how much do people think that we should have as the maximum spend on our Secret Santa? So what I'm asking is that hopefully everybody can enter in between £5 and £25 and then hit the send button there. How much should be the maximum that you can spend on Secret Santa? Brilliant. I've got all my 5 in again. I'm going to close the poll. And we can see that, well, a clear winner there again is that £10 is the number that we're going to go for. So amazing stuff. This has certainly made our decision making a lot easier and quicker for our Christmas party. Now, obviously, we're whizzing through this meeting at lightning pace so that you can see what's going on. But now what I want to do is actually encourage my participants to go into the VBox Q&A board so that we can do a bit of crowdsourcing. This is another way that we see the Q&A board being used. And really what I'd like to do is encourage everybody to start sending in some ideas for some activities or games that we can run during the party. So ones that you might have tried previously, send them in. Fun and exciting games. And then what we also want to do is then start liking the ones sent by others so we can choose a few of the most popular ones. So I can see there's lots coming in here, dropping in at the top. And then what I want to do, another great thing about having VBox in Teams is that we can also sort by the most liked here. And we can see which ones are popular. So music quiz is up there, horse racing, and some VBox awards, although that slipped down. So karaoke, music quiz, horse racing. I think there's 3 good ones that we can certainly apply to our Christmas party, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to enjoy that. So I think what we'll do is we'll move on from this excitement in running a meeting across 2 platforms, and I'll thank my colleagues there for taking part in this exercise. It's been really helpful. Hopefully it's been useful for all of you watching over Joe's shoulder to see how it's all going to work. Okay, I think it's time now, Joe, that we jump back to our presentation.
Cool. Thank you, Dermot. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay, Dermot?
Yep, I can hear you, Joe.
Cool, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a good sort of flavor of how you can sort of incorporate sort of VBox into a Teams environment, and the real advantage of having it all contained within that sort of one meeting, that one sort of meeting space. One of the things I really liked about it when I was sort of inputting those ideas was that, as opposed to the kind of the sort of the meeting chat that's available within Teams, my comments were anonymous. So I was, able to be a lot more sort of creative. Didn't sort of feel, pressured with sort of being identified, and the same with the, same with the polling as well. So. What I'm going to do now is quickly run through how you go and sort of set that up, and it's worth just remembering what sort of Dermot said at the moment, that the Teams app hasn't sort of quite been released yet within the in sort of Teams. You won't be able to sort of go and do this just yet, but I will just talk you through the setup and just sort of talk you through how easy that is. So. What you need to do is you need to find your find the Teams meeting that you want to add VBox into. So in this example, we've done that through the calendar, and then I want to go to edit that. Once I click on the edit, you'll see at the very top of the meeting kind of setup screen, there's the option to add apps into that we want to use as part of the session. And that's really important. That's what we want to do here. So we hit the plus icon to do that. We then get the option to add a tab, and there's a search functionality within this, so we can search for VBox, but there's also hopefully a list of the apps that have been optimized for meetings, and VBox sort of sits within that, so you should see it as soon as it comes up. Once you've added the VBox tab, you'll then be asked to select which or input which VBox session you want to connect it to. So you enter the 9-digit session ID that you want to use and connect it up. So you do need to have created your session in advance. If you haven't done that, there is a link within this menu to get to the VBox dashboard, and you can go in there and set it up. And once you've done that, you're essentially at the stage that we were at when we jumped into the VBox meeting just now. When participants and attendees come in, they'll have the option to click on the VBox button up at the top, bring up VBox down the side, and engage with polling and Q&A through that. So the final thing we wanted to do is to run through some various kind of use cases, an example, sort of early examples of where we're, kind of sort of seeing this being used, and share those, with you. Likewise in advance, if you want to sort of share your ideas and how you're currently sort of using Teams, with us as well, please do use the the VBox Q&A that we've got running here. The instructions for that are on the screen. So yeah, do feel free to share those. And I think I'm going to hand over to Dermot to run you through the first one.
Brilliant, thanks, Joe. So we're looking at hybrid sessions first, and actually hybrid sessions pose a lot of new challenges to hosts. We've got to find ways to engage with our participants that are joining from completely different environments and joining in very different ways. Trying to maintain a comfortable level of control with all those different variables, it can be really tough. So, if you think about some of the questions that you might ask yourself as a host, how are you going to make sure that all of your participants have got an equal voice in the session? We know that in-person attendees, probably can't type into the chat, let's say, of a normal team session, as they're looking at a single screen, and equally those that are attending virtually are going to find it hard to perhaps jump in verbally if the conversation is flowing within the room. Remote attendees being rather overpowered by those that are together in a room is a problem that we hear about a lot. So that's a challenge that you're going to be faced with. What about how are you going to combat the different distractions that actually present themselves to people that are in person and remote participants? When you're remote, you can probably have a sneaky look at your phone and nobody would notice, but actually if you're in the room, you're likely to get called out on it immediately. Now, we're not suggesting that VBox is a silver bullet for every challenge, but by using it integrated with Teams and decoupled, you're able to really level that playing field by having that dedicated channel for your two-way communications, and it will go a long way to helping, and we encourage you to give it an experiment and try. So, whether that's you polling your attendees or them asking, you questions, or liking and upvoting each other's contributions, it can really get engagement going. There's also the piece about anonymity and how that might be crucial in getting your honest and uninhibited feedback from your hybrid sessions. So, taking some of that engagement away from verbal and therefore an identified nature, could really encourage a much higher participation rate. So, using VBox alongside Teams, gives that anonymous channel within what is ultimately an identified session, and will really get high engagement rates. And actually, even internally here at VBox, as colleagues have started to work from the office again, we've really seen the benefits of using VBox in our own meetings, even more so than we used to, just to make sure that everybody's got that fair opportunity to contribute and feedback.
Yeah, I was just sort of going to add that as someone who sort of had to sort of participate in meetings remotely, where there has been the sort of the live audience, it's great being able to use something where if I want to ask a question, that my my question and my voice is of equal value to the people that are in the room. It can sometimes feel like it's not the case if you're outside the room, that you're being ignored. So it is fantastic to have a tool like this that you can use.
Absolutely. So what we then want to do is start looking at extending of life cycles of sessions. So this concept of extended life cycles is something that's been talked about in education and events worlds for years, but it's never been a really easy thing to actually achieve, and definitely not through a single channel. And that's where this is really exciting evolution of sessions. People working in that collaborative way and in real time, it's just simply an everyday thing now. So it's great to be able to take all of the benefits of using VBox in your class or meeting environment and open that up to participants both pre and post the live session. And that's assuming that there is a live session, of course. It might just be asynchronous. So having VBox available in your team's channel or meeting, it really means that those participants have only ever got one place to go to. And as Joe's going to talk about in a minute, you can use announcements and other features within Teams to really drive your participants back into that VBox element whenever you want. And we know that we have much more productive meetings and classes when our participants are well prepared. So engaging with them and getting that feedback prior really helps everybody arrive primed and ready. So participants, really having that ability to raise their concerns ahead of time, or send in that all-important question that they might not have thought about until after the session, is going to make your meetings and classes better fundamentally, but they'll be more fun and ultimately more valuable to you as the host, but really importantly also to those people that are attending.
There's a lovely little case study on this sort of subject that I heard from a customer recently, that I think that this new sort of Teams app and integration that we've got will massively benefit, and that is in this example, it's a chemistry lecturer at the University of Southampton who they deploy a sort of more of a kind of a sort of flipped learning kind of approach, whereby they will release all of their the course materials for that week. Let's say at the beginning of the week, that might be sort of pre-recorded lectures, support resources, papers, reading materials. It's all sort of released at the beginning of the week for the students to be able to sort of dissect and go through at their own at their own pace. But running alongside that, they have a VBox session with Q&A open and available, but with moderation switched on. So it means that any comments and questions that come in, the message board isn't getting out of hand while it isn't being sort of watched, but the questions are still able to come in and come in anonymously. So people are kind of freed up to be able to answer those questions with the freedom that anonymity provides. And then what they'll do is they'll have a live, a live session, sort of live drop-in session, let's say through Teams, and at that point, they will switch the moderation off within Q&A. So any questions that come in during that live drop-in session get published straight away. And the first thing they'll do is they'll run some knowledge checking polls, and then answer any of the questions that have come in during the session. And depending on the responses from the knowledge checking polls, they might then be able to go back over some material that perhaps the understanding is not at the level it needs to be. But it's a really nice blend of sort of live session and then asynchronous session, using the power of VBox to sort of link between the two. The next one I wanted to talk to you about was the ability to sort of do announcements, within Teams. So this is using the sort of the chat functionality to be able to send out messages, but rather than to individuals, or a group within the chat, actually being able to send them out to, specific or multiple channels. And what you can do with apps within Teams is you can get a sort of a hyperlink for them that will take people straight into the app in question, and you can include that in your announcement. So say you want to send out a very quick poll survey to a specific team or a specific group of students or colleagues. You can do that and send and include and embed the link to the VBox session that contains that survey. So people go straight into it. They get the notification that it's there and ready to complete. So your response rate will be higher because of those notifications, and it will just be targeted at the people and the colleagues that you want it to go to. Next one is around breakout rooms, and actually I noticed there was a question that came in, which I'm hopefully now about to answer. So using the VBox app within Teams can really sort of power up those breakout rooms. So a couple of different examples, one of which is using VBox to sort of bridge the gap between those breakout rooms. So maybe you've got these distinct groups of people working on a particular topic, or having a discussion around a particular subject. What you can actually do, as I sort of showed you in the setup, before, when you're entering putting in the meeting ID that you want, that instance to connect to, you can actually have different channels and different breakout rooms all connected to the same VBox session. So that VBox session can sort of connect to all those groups. So it may be that those different groups are, inputting their ideas and what they've been talking about into VBox, so that when everyone comes back into the central larger group, then you might run a crowdsourcing exercise, like Dermot demonstrated just now, where you then get the whole group to like and upvote comments, and then take the top 3 or 4 forward for kind of further discussion. Another one might be that you start off in that larger group, you ask people for their opinion on a particular subject. Maybe it's as simple as whether they agree or disagree with a statement or a proposal. Then you might get them breaking out into sort of smaller groups, ask them to talk to each other and explain why they voted a certain way. But you might choose to leave the VBox poll open, and then ask people, if they change their minds, to change their vote, so to change their response within the VBox poll. And it would be it's then interesting to see when they come back into the the larger session, if there's been a shift in opinion from one side to the other, based on the sort of conversations that they've been having. And then one final one was using VBox to support a virtual pub quiz. So this is something that we've been doing quite a lot of, both in our sort of personal lives and in our kind of sort of corporate lives, where we've been running these internally, as teams, or as a sort of organization. We've been running them externally for our customers, and we can use tools like Teams to really bring something to that quiz. So one of the things that's really nice about about Teams is the ability for everyone to potentially have their sort of cameras on. So when you're running those that sort of quiz questions, you can see people's reactions to questions. You can see their how they respond when the leaderboards come up and they found out that they're in first, or maybe found out that they're not quite in first. But using something like a video sort of conferencing tool and sort of the Teams meetings with VBox embedded really bring something to that VBox quiz. So it's something that we've been making sort of great use of both internally and then externally with our customers as well. And that's kind of it in terms of the sort of the use cases that we wanted to share. I'm obviously conscious a little bit of time, but we do still have time to sort of cover Q&A, and I've noticed that there've been some questions coming in. Dermot, I think I'm going to shift over to the present view, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. We've got a few questions coming in here. A few that I'm just going to knock off the top straight away. They're very kind words. So for the demo, so thank you for sending those in and letting us know, giving us that confidence that we're working well. Actually, VBox has often been used really helpfully in that manner to let presenters know that everything's okay via a different channel than the one that they're presenting on. So that was great. Thanks for that. So our first question here that we're going to take is when you have the VBox navigation open as host, can you open the participant list or meeting chat open at the same time? So I need to pick this apart. Joe, does this jump out to you straight away?
It jumped. I think I know what it's asking, but I'm not sure if I know what the answer is. So I think it's basically asking if you've got VBox open in the side panel, can you also open up the team sort of chat, the participant list at the same time? I think without actually sort of testing myself, I think the way that Microsoft Teams works is you can only have one sort of side panel open at one time. And I know like the meeting chat and I think the participant list all take up that space in the list. So unless one of my colleagues does know the answer and wants to post it in the Q&A, I think that's the case.
Great stuff. So great, even in digitally challenge Cornwall. That's good. So this is actually the one that you, I think you just answered, or certainly was talking about in your kind of user case study there, Joe, about polls and breakouts. And yes, absolutely. Using the breakouts is really quite simple, particularly from a VBox perspective. You can have those sessions and the different content available. If you want to, you can have different things going on in the breakouts, or you can actually have one central theme cutting through it all, which really depends on what you're trying to do during a session. But luckily, it's flexible enough to cope with all of those.
I love combining the the sort of the smaller sessions, larger sessions, and breakout rooms are a really nice way to potentially sort of break up what could be quite a long session. And just they can be very short. They can be sort of quick 5 minutes, have a discussion amongst yourselves around this topic. And if you want, you can then use something like VBox to collect those thoughts that come out of those come out of those groups.
Absolutely, Joe. Yeah, and somebody's just put a comment here, but I just kind of wanted to focus on it for a second. They really believe that this is going to be a significant improvement to hybrid teaching. We absolutely agree, which is one of the reasons we've been so keen to get this update to the Teams app released, because we know it's going to make a huge difference to how people are trying to teach at the moment. As we know, it's quite a challenging time for that. This one, hi, how do you integrate VBox into a Teams live event? It's a great question, actually. We have got some of the technical team on that might be able to answer this. I'm not entirely sure if actually it's available in the live event part of Teams just yet. I know Microsoft are releasing updates to this stuff all the time. So if you really want to talk about Teams live event, please give us drop us an email on hello@vevox.com, and we'll happily open up that conversation with you directly. Yes, the session has been recorded. Can voting be limited by different groups of participants? For example, is it possible to limit voting to only presenters? Go for it, Joe.
No, I don't. No, it's not. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't kind of interact with, or doesn't sort of, VBox doesn't pick up on the different kind of yeah, kind of what people are called within the yeah, within the meeting. So presenters or participants, they would all see the same VBox screen and be able to respond yeah, accordingly.
Great stuff. I run it in Mac and iPad so that I can do two things at the same time. It's quite common practice. Yeah, absolutely. Most of us are certainly working on at least two screens for the most of the time, but even having multiple different devices is, as you say, common practice and can be really helpful in making an engaging meeting. This is a technical question that I'm not going to spend too much time on because I'd want to defer it to some of our tech guys. Again, if the answer doesn't come back through on the VBox board in a moment or two, please just email us at hello@vevox.com, and again, we'll happily open up that conversation. Somebody said, yep. The VBox Teams app will also sit in the channel as a tab as well as in the live meeting. Okay, yeah. That's a great point. Joe, do you just want to elaborate on that for those people that might not?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really we didn't really touch upon it because we were mainly focused on the new kind of update that's coming that allows you to run VBox within the kind of the meeting environment. But actually, we have had for quite a few months actually the ability to add VBox the VBox app into the channel, so it sits within the channel as a tab. You add it in pretty much the same way, and you assign the session ID in the same way. And actually, that is obviously much more sort of usable in a kind of an asynchronous environment where you might have sort of VBox surveys within there. And it can be the same meeting. It can be the same meeting ID that you're using, in the live meetings as well. So it can be in that example that I shared, where you're dropping into sort of live sessions and sort of asynchronous sessions. It can all still sit under the same VBox sessions, or your data is getting collated in the same the same place. So yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant stuff. Right, I'm just very aware that we're getting to the end of our promised time. We'll take one or two more questions in just a second before we close up. One thing I do want to make sure that people do is please go to the VBox app survey that we've pushed out there for you. It's great to get your feedback on these sessions. It's the only way that we can actually improve them. But there are also some key questions on here that you might be interested in. During some previous webinars, we've had people ask where they can get the VBox t-shirts and other swag from. You obviously couldn't see us today, but we are all fully branded up, Joe and I, today. And we've got some limited edition seasonal VBox ski hats as well. So if you do want any of those, please do fill in the survey and drop your email address at the bottom, and we'll get in touch, or again, send an email to hello@vevox.com. But we would really appreciate the completion of that survey.
Is anyone going skiing this year?
Good question. I'm sure some people are going to manage to do it. So we'll pick up that. Actually, the person who's getting in touch regarding the research, please do drop us a line at hello@vevox.com. We'd love to continue that conversation with you. So please send that in to us now. When will it be ready to use? As we were saying, in the next couple of days, we are at the mercy of Microsoft's publishing. So we're just waiting on that to happen. So hopefully very soon. Okay, I think we've probably covered all of these off now. So I think it's about time that we said goodbye for the afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to get those questions from you and see some great engagement. We really think that this Teams integration for VBox is a significant step forward in providing that anonymous channel and all the power and benefits of VBox in your everyday sessions, meetings and classes. So goodbye from me. Thank you very much. And Joe, I'll let you close out for today.
Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot. Thank you for all of the questions that that came in. I hope I hope you're as excited about it as we are. Thank you for I was going to say thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties, but I think we may have just got away with it. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining, and we will hopefully speak to you soon.